Welcome to the Obojima Podcast. My name is Jeremiah, and I'm joined by Adam Lee, and we are some of the writers of Obojima. We are missing Ari this week. Moment of silence for Ari.
Yeah.
Yep, he went down in a freak paragliding accident.
And he was turned into a Mustang.
Oh, poor guy. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us. This is our weekly writers meeting where we talk about Obojima, we chat about it, and we come up with some concepts. And that's just what we'll be doing today. And today I have something special for Adam.
Ooh. I don't even know what it is.
Oh, it is a new faction idea. We're going to be talking about coming up with the concept for factions. I actually have one in my head. Now, the issue is it's saved in my Instagram, this idea, the starting idea here. Okay, so I'll give you the breakdown from what I can remember. I'm going to have to pull it up. But in the 80s... it's a faction idea for Yadaman. We're jumping right into it. Okay, so in the 80s in New York, from what I can remember, as I look up my saved posts on Instagram, there is this like group, this organization that formed. Oh yeah, here it is. Let's see what it is. What are they called? Guardian Angels in New York. Yeah, the New York subway system was incredibly dangerous in the 80s, and so the Guardian Angels formed, which is like a group of young kids and like just people who wanted to give back. They all got like embroidered jackets. It's kind of like Hell's Angels, except for the New York subway system.
They don't beat people up.
They don't. Well, they're like little. They just sit. They just sit on the subway and they protect people that are trying to travel home. They stop. Like a group of 3 or 4 of these people would get on a subway train. And they would just ride it back and forth, and they'd take patrols, and they'd do all of this stuff. And I just loved the concept of like this organization, not necessarily like a kind of like free form, almost like a gang is a weird way of saying it, but like a gang of people that join together who have a specific goal to protect their community against like ruffians. And they have like, they have berets and they have these like, it's very 80s. They all have matching jackets or shirts and stuff like that. And they just go out on patrols. And I love that concept for Yadaman.
Yeah.
Because Yadaman is like it's a huge city, not necessarily governed by any specific organization. In fact, it's the factions that come together to help govern it and protect it in certain capacities. The Sword School kind of doing this. And I liked the idea that like if the sword schools, Kanan and Moon, is the defense of Yadaman, what if there's like this ragtag group that maybe are both doing the same thing, but they're kind of at odds with each other in some capacity?
This is interesting because it makes me think of a world building thing. So if you've got a group that like two of the things that the placeholder will be guardian angels, but the two of the things that these guardian angels could be doing is one, maybe because Yadaman is so big and maybe because the first age magic can kind of do weird stuff and we're not really sure yet what the specifics are. As we're building the world, we'll develop that. But like maybe people can get confused, or it's like a lot of visitors come and they kind of get bewildered by this giant first stage city. They're not used to it. And so these people are, first of all, like they kind of introduce themselves and they can escort you through the city and kind of act as tour guides or docents. They're like, oh, and this place is there. And you would be interested in learning this about the first age magic and blah, blah, blah. The other thing is that it could be that once you go underneath Yadaman and maybe we build out just this labyrinth of stuff that's down there, these old subway stations, some of them are in good condition, some of them are ruined, some of them still work, some of them might be spirit whelmed and they can work certain times or certain phases of the moon or whatever. But these people, these guardian angels, will know about all that stuff, or at least some of it. And they're kind of almost like an aha. They're learning as they go more and more about the city. And there might be some guardian angels that are like compiling records and taking lore. We could also kind of make it that the deeper you go or the more levels that, because I remember you telling me about that subway in Japan, you're like, this thing is like skyscrapers underground. Like there's malls down there. There's like, shopping malls and there's multiple levels. It could be that these people, like there's danger down there.
Yeah.
Maybe we start making a few more monsters or like kind of creepy spirits, or maybe there's ways you can get lost for forever, or like, I don't know, like some place where it brings in a little bit of danger.
There is some like something we could play with. So there's like there's the spirits and their transition into demonic, like the demonic nature.
Yeah.
Like maybe guardian angels are worried about demons.
Oh.
And so they're like, because Yadamon's such a center for spirits, they're like, oh yeah, we're tracking demons.
Oh, that's interesting.
But their techniques of doing that might be a little more rough around the edges, where it's like you know, some guy gets a little drunk at the bar and he's talking about how he saw a demon. They might go rough him up a little bit just to get that information out, because they're like, hey, we're not going to kill this guy, but if we push him around a little bit and he gives us information, it's for the greater good. We're going to go capture a demon.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to bind a demon and send it, somewhere,
Well, I mean, maybe they're doing, business with the place that sort of makes those demon jars, those capturing jars, like the Iron Flask, Obojima's version of the Iron Flask. It's like you get those and there's like this trade that's going on, and these guardian angels are kind of combing the streets of Yadamon. I mean, maybe this starts to say something about the nature of demons, and maybe they're attracted to first age. Maybe they're attracted to the first age architecture. There might be something special about Yadamon that they are interested in. Maybe there is some kind of portal there, or some kind of thing where they're starting to build their own realm. I don't know. Like, it's starting to bring up these kind of questions of like, what's going on here, and why do these people want to keep demons clear of it?
I really like, so, in Obojima, there's like a transition where a spirit goes from, for anyone not familiar, demons are spirits, right? They're spirits that have gone through a transformation.
They're naughty spirits.
Yeah. And so like
booted.
in when it comes to spirits, there might be trickster spirits, or spirits that kind of have these tendencies that maybe walk the line of like they're poking with you or they're annoying. But when they become more maleficent, when they become more intentionally evil, they go through this transformation not by their own choice. They just make this transformation into a demon. And so not only can that happen to spirits out in the physical realm, but if that happens to a spirit in the spirit realm, they'll usher them out of the spirit realm. They'll banish them. And so they'll take them and move them into the physical realm. And so you could imagine there might be a surplus of demons. And if we're utilizing the portal that's in Yadamon, maybe demons just get spat out through this portal occasionally, and the small ones scutter underground or hide in the subway system. Yeah. And so there's this like, Yadamon on its surface is really good, but there's like a little underbelly that's not just like, I don't want it to be, there's just bandits and monsters under the subway, because that's been done 1,000 times, Well, but this demon thing could be interesting. Yeah,
I mean, I'm starting to think about like, in Forgotten Realms, they have like Skullport that's sitting under Waterdeep. Like Waterdeep's like this nice town. It's all cool. Underneath is Skullport, which is run by the Xanathar the Beholder. And they allow a certain amount of nefarious skullduggery to go on, that as long as it doesn't seep up too much into the like Skullport can do what Skullport does, as long as it doesn't come up and interfere too much with the law and order of Waterdeep. Likewise in Magic, in Ravnica there was this huge city, basically a city world. It was just all city, and it was divided up into 10 guilds, and one of the guilds was Rakdos, and they were just like the most berserko, chaotic, demon like centered part of the city. And if you wanted to have sort of too much of a good time, or you wanted to sort of kind of push the threshold of what was sort of socially acceptable, you could go to the Rakdos sector and experience this craziness. Maybe, I don't know if there's going to be like an enclave of demons, or this is a place where demons cluster, and they're either created like a thieves guild, or they've created some kind of like nightclub, or they've created some.
It's like the red light district of Yadaman.
Could be, yeah. I mean, Yadaman's big enough.
Yeah.
And if Obojima has a spectrum of just like, okay, there's Okiri village here, and then there's this place in Yadaman, like Yadaman's going to have the full range of what Obojima has to offer. It's ancient because it's a first age city, so it's got this ancient history. It goes all the way through I'm sure the Nakadama knew about it when they were they had their empire, and then it's gone all the way through to now the human age, and who knows what's in this place. It could be the full range of things, and why not demons?
I like that.
I mean, and it's weird, like demons, the word demon has so much cultural baggage, but really it's just naughty spirits, or spirits who, I don't know exactly. I mean, maybe we should write more about this, but.
Well, I think, in the same way that humans or animals have a spectrum of like temperament, I think demons do too. I think if a pest spirit, let's say a mossling, for example, for some reason became like really, really twisted, like it loved to steal, and like and it stole so much, and it became like a kleptomaniac, and really like was now stealing in a way that was hurting people. Like it would like steal
a kid's favorite toy,
or steal the spark plug or the spoke of a bike, and now they couldn't ride. Like there's doing things on purpose to hurt people, and it made this transition. A mossling is not going to turn into a giant oni. It's going to turn into a demon that might still be pest level, where it's like this thing's a demon, but it's like it transitions, and now it like it drinks all the booze. Like now it goes and like it loves to steal, and that's what it does. And so now it goes and absorbs all of the liquid in an area, and you could imagine it grows from this tiny mossling into a bigger thing or something like that.
I mean, there's something interesting about as you have a regular spirit and it's just doing its thing, but then it just takes like our friend the mossling, and it starts to steal things, and then for some reason it has this extra little thing that it enjoys, the pain it causes, or it enjoys having hoarding and being greedy. It'd be interesting to see if how does it physically change? Just like, does it start to glow? Does it do its eyes start to glow a different color? Does it gain longer fingers? How does it adapt to, is there something about the sort of demonic vibration that actually changes its like physical form? Would be kind of interesting to do. I mean, I'm just seeing like a page of spirits, and here's the spirit in its regular form, but then here's as it transitions into this sort of demonic aspect, what does that look like?
So, and to say all that, to spin it back around to our original topic, these spirits have the spectrum, and some of them are pest and minor, and they do these things that hurt people, but not necessarily killing or violent or dangerous. They're not going to swallow you whole. Not to say those don't exist, but I think if that is part of Yadaman, where it's like there is a part, there is some danger to living in Yadaman. There's all of these upsides, but then you might, as you're walking home, run into a Gorogoro or a mossling turned demon who wants to steal your shoes or something weird, and does so. If that exists, then the guardian angels, whatever we call them, but our version of the guardian angels might have formed to combat that. And so they're just like, they're on night, like they're walking on the streets at night. They're going to areas that aren't well illuminated. They might be doing these things where they're just like walking around to assist people. And in certain circumstances, I think there's ways it could really interact well with the other factions, where they might come, like maybe the sword school's like, hey, like we're trained swordsmen, and we're doing this to protect people. We have like a code and honor. Like there's like a thing that we're trying to do. Everyone that works that is a student at Kanan and Moon are taught these disciplines, and they're actively working to help their community.
Yeah.
But there's like a way to go about it. And so there's maybe there are odds there. Maybe there's like maybe some of the witches or perhaps getting some of their ingredients from demons and things like that. And so maybe there's like hey, we don't work with, we don't like these witch factions because they're buying from nefarious groups or something like that. There could be fun ways to play with that.
Yeah. It makes me think of like that this order, maybe they're an order, like, or it's, like that these guardian angels, they go back to the earliest days of Yadaman. Like, because if spirits, we've kind of said that spirits have been here as long as the first age, you know, perhaps earlier, maybe the first age came before spirits. We're not sure which came first, but spirits certainly were around during the first age. Maybe that you can find a spirit that's that old. But at some point, there was this dynamic where spirits started to become demons. They exercised that, and then at some point there would be, maybe the first ones were the Nakadama. Maybe there were Nakadama. Maybe it was the age of Agmai, the demon usurper. Yeah. And Nakadama realized that, demons are a problem, and we have to like keep our eyes on them. Any possible spirit, any spirit that kind of gets sucked down this path could become an Agmai. Yeah. So maybe they were like the first guardian angels, and maybe it's very ancient. This order, maybe it even predates like Candid and Moon. Maybe it predates Sword Schools, predates everything, and maybe it came from Yadaman. And maybe the guardian angels, maybe this is like lore that the guardian angels themselves don't even know. But as they're digging in Yadaman and as they're discovering stuff, they're realizing like, oh wow, like we found an old like sort of temple dedicated to this order. Yeah. Or maybe they're, the person who is sort of leading the charter has this ancient scroll that's written in Nakadama. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, we this is where we've gotten all our sort of information about how to do this sort of demon. They're not necessarily demon hunters, but they're watchers, I guess, in some way. Or maybe like another question. So when they do find, say, like this mossling that they're noticing, there's been a bunch of the tavern keepers are like, hey, we've noticed that a bunch of our stuff is missing and we're really upset. And we one of our clients or people closing up at night saw there was this mossling that ran away with like a flagon of our finest wine. Yeah. And they've called the guardian angels, and the guardian angels are like, oh yeah, that's whiffing of the demon. And they go and investigate, and then they'll sort of, they would have to like go through this. I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought.
No, I like where you're going. I like this idea of them being like, I like that they see this and they go, oh, it's not a demon, but it could be. And so they almost sit and watch and wait for confirmation. I like the idea of maybe a couple of the young bloods in the guardian angels being like, let's just go get it now. And one of the older ones like, no, we're not harassing spirits. Okay. Yeah. We wait for confirmation. If it's a demon, we'll act, but if it's not, then it's not our job. Right. Yeah. That's, take that up with the spirit itself or whatever it is.
I just remember where I was going with that. So, but yeah, it's like they would have to, like, is there a cause for, like, in Spirited Away, like No Face, or the spirit that comes into the bathhouse and it's all sludgy and stuff, and she figures out like, oh, there's a bicycle stuck in there, and she like pulls out and those garbage comes out. Is there something like do these guardian angels, are they able to redeem demons? Like, or is it like, no, when these spirits go like that, we've got to, like, I think, is it like a Ghostbuster trap where they can just like,
well, I think there's maybe a couple different ways they could deal with it. Right. It's like, oh, it's a pest spirit. Maybe they drive it out of town. Like I like the idea of them having a couple tricks in their head. Like in Nausicaa, she has that whistle at the end of a stick, and she's like, swinging around, and it either attracts the bugs or it gets them away. I can't remember.
Kind of calms them down.
I can't quite recall, but maybe they have some implements where it's like, oh, it's a pest spirit that's turned into a demon. Maybe get your get your headset out, and they like put on like smooth jazz, and they're blasting it through a cassette tape, and like everyone all they're like scuttling out, like, oh yeah, this always clears them out. And then there's like the level above that where it's like, this thing like hurt someone, like it it rampaged through town, maybe like a small little neighborhood or something, and it broke someone's leg maybe it wasn't on purpose, it was an accident. And it's like, well, this thing's a little too dangerous, so we're going to like you said, like maybe we'll seal it away. Like maybe they can seal it in one of those clay pots that we had talked about. That's not necessarily something that's in Obojima right now, but to let everyone know, we have concept this idea that there's a clay that has a lot of properties, and it when turned into a pot can potentially seal spirits inside of it.
Yeah.
And so like maybe they have some of these clay pots where it's like, hey, we're gonna seal this thing. And then I think the step beyond that, and maybe this doesn't happen very often, but the step beyond that, it's like, this demon's too dangerous, and it's not just like a couple of us, like we're gonna get the organization together, and it's gonna get like, we're gonna 24 people, and we're gonna go find this thing, and we're gonna kill it.
And that's where like you get higher the player characters. It's like okay, because it seems like now we're kind of creating these levels of demonness. Yeah. And it's like, if you're a demon, you got booted out of the spirit world, and it's like, but it's just like, I can think of, buddies of mine who I grew up with in the valley, and they just couldn't obey the laws, and they were just always on the fringes of society, but they were nice people, but you just didn't cross them, or they would just go get what they wanted, and maybe they didn't get it by conventional means, shall we say. But they were, and I think when I think about like, they were in that way, they were kind of chaotic, they just couldn't obey laws. And it was like, but they were good people, and they would help, if you got stuck in the mud, they would come help you out. And if they, you had hard times, you could crash on their couch. Like they're awesome people. It's just that they had no respect or no consideration for society. They were just like, meh, whatever. This is just like, that's what people do, but we're riding our own way. We're like outlaws, and we're like, so that it seems like the very lowest level of the demon society. But then as it gets up there could be like, even maybe like a spirit, like in the beginning of Mononoke, where it's just like the wild boar spirit. It's kind of got a little cuckoo, or it maybe got a little bit corrupted, and it's kind of berserky going through. Like the guardian angels would be called for that. But then there's the sort of intentionally malicious ones. Yeah. And then those ones are, you're summoning the 24 party to go, the 24 member posse to go after it.
Yeah. But, I really like that. Yeah. I think the other thing too is, I think trying to figure out where we want them. The thing I really liked about the guardian angels in the real world in New York City is the fact that it feels like such a ragtag, like it's not like the sword school where it's like you look at them and you're like, this is part of an organization, there's rules to follow, there's like, I mean, maybe let me rephrase this, because there's probably rules to follow within the guardian angels. What I'm rather saying is like, this is a larger faction that is like well established with like a building and like funding, and like it's like it's in the same sense that it's a school, it's also kind of like a business, and like there's like a huge structure, there's power associated with it, right? Like there's like not to say that they would get it or whatever, but like you could imagine a member of the sword school would walk into a bar, and the bartender might be like, oh, they are part of this organization, I respect this organization, this drink's on the house, or something like that, right? Like there's that kind of like, there's a lot of influence within this organization. And I like the idea that like there's a smaller group that are a little more rough around the edges. Some people don't like them at all. Some people love them. And whether you ask for their help or not, they're going to help because they think it's the right thing to do. And sometimes it roughs, like they might like chase a demon into your bar and like they capture the demon, which is great, but they destroy your bar. And then when the bartender's like, hey, what are you? He's like, hey, them the prices, buddy. Sorry. And he flips them a coin, which doesn't pay for enough, any of the damages. I kind of like the idea of where it's like, hey, we're getting the job done, but we have to kind of resort to some guerrilla tactics because we're small and we're doing the good fight. We're quote unquote skipping all of the niceties that all of these other factions are doing because we're going to get this thing done. And because of that, they're at odds with some of these other groups. And not everyone likes them.
Or it's like they're kind of maybe at their best, the guardian angels are, helping the community and bringing value to it and, a sense of safety. And also they're just super, kind and, they know the city and they help you out. At the other side of the guardian angels is like there's a little bit of sort of this we're kind of above the law, or we are the law. There might be a little vigilantism. Like they can, it doesn't, because there isn't like a mayor of Yadaman and there isn't like this hierarchy structure. There isn't like this idea of, there's this book of rules about how to run the city. There's none of that. Everybody's just kind of in this sort of general agreement to be cool. Yeah. And just like, hey, we're all here to just enjoy the city. We're all here to just kind of express ourselves and to create our cool stuff and grow our gardens and have markets and have festivals. And
there doesn't need to be a law because culturally this is culturally what they've come to decision of, and everyone follows that.
And maybe the guardian angels are kind of at their worst can be like, we kind of supersede all of that.
Yeah, we're breaking culture standards
because we're super important, and maybe there's a few bad apples in the guardian angels that are kind of a little bit more on the arrogant or ego side, but generally like the guardian angels are seen as like, they're just making sure the city runs smoothly and nothing goes sideways. And they're also making sure that, these kind of reckless, crazy spirits, because, they're not demons, they're just like reckless, crazy spirits, we could call them. Yeah. These guys will take care of them,
So, okay. Did you ever see the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, the live action one? Came out, I think, in 92.
I did see it, but I probably forgotten most of it.
That's okay. But I'm a huge fan. Love those movies. And I'm realizing the Guardian Angels are also in New York, kind of similar to the Foot Clan in that film. And so we could do this. The reason I like this, I don't know if we want to utilize this, but in the Foot Clan, at least in those films, all of the Foot Clan members are young kids, teenagers.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And the way they get, and they're bad guys. Sorry, spoiler, Foot Clan's bad in this. The way they get these kids in is they're like, hey, they have a warehouse on like some random island or something like that, and it's full of all these stolen goods. There's like arcade machines, there's candy, there's soda, there's like a skate park built into it. All the kids are like playing poker and smoking cigarettes.
It's Pinocchio's Pleasure Island.
Sam Rockwell's running around like, hey kids, you want candy? Like he's a teenager too, but like it's just like, it's very like a playland, right? And it's like you can have access to this full stop without your parents. Do whatever you want. And like every once in a while, go and do a raid for us. Like every once in a while, go and steal some TVs, right? And the kids do it. And then there's above that, kind of on that base layer where it's like the Foot Clan's just a bunch of kids stealing stuff. There's one layer above that where the best of those kids who are getting ingrained into the next level are being taught like martial arts. And they're getting actual uniforms and they're getting masks and they're taking care of the deeper things. And then above that is the actual leader. And so like,
oh, that's interesting.
It's, we could do something similar where it's like the Guardian Angels in Yadaman are like, oh yeah, we're doing this. And then maybe there's like a subset above that where it's like, like what is the true purpose of the Guardian Angels? And there's like 12 people that actually know that. And they have their own ideals and goals.
I mean, it feels to me like that description, like them being more like the Foot Clan, totally cool. Love it. it does feel different than the real world guardian angels, which feel more less of sort of like a like the gangs of New York kind of vibe, and more like their community, like stewards of community.
Right.
These guys feels less of the stewards of community, and they're more like, we're like badass, we're living our own thing and we're doing our cool stuff, and we're like, but we're also we're kind of like kung fu demon fighters.
So what we could, to mix the two ideas, if we wanted to, you could do something where it's like the base organization is like the community driven to stop nefarious spirits and demons. And then if we wanted to take like the couple leaders who are like, it's becoming more important to them, they are the ones that might have access to like the scroll you were talking about, where it's like, oh yeah, maybe there's like some like, we're basing like, a good example of this could be like, oh yeah, like put on smooth jazz to scare a pest spirit, or like, you send off a firecracker and it pulls out like maybe soot spirits from the wall or something like that. They're attracted to it. All this information that the guardian angels are utilizing, how are they getting all of this? And maybe it's like, well, there's 3 or 4 people that have an old book that is full of this information, and like they're utilizing, maybe they weren't called the guardian angel, but like this the Nakadama knowledge from a long time ago. And it doesn't have to be evil in any capacity. It doesn't have to be like the Foot Clan. But
I love this thing is metamorphosed, and I'm liking where it's going, where that like that at the moment you're playing Obojima, which is like the corruption's hit the coast, and we're a couple hundred years into the human or the Dara age. It's like this group has just found this thing, and they're not, maybe they're not the sharpest knives in the drawer. They're like figuring it out, and they know just enough to like have some cool demon fighting tactics.
Yeah.
But they're still like, there's so much to know, which makes it cool that if you roll up a character who is one of these factions, you've got a lot of like role playing that you can do.
Yeah.
You like, there's fighting demons, which is awesome. And you can also, there's like tons of like adventures you can go on, whether it's like escorting people or, solving mystery. You're basically a Ghostbuster, so which is super cool. But then also you've got this ancient sort of like, you could uncover this ancient thing that maybe leads all the way back to Ogmai.
Yeah.
But you're at the tip of the iceberg. So there's a lot of like learning to do, and there's a lot of like dungeon delving to do. Like you're like, this is Nakadama, this ancient thing we've got, whether it's a script of a scroll or it's an actual book or whatever it is. It's like, there's things that lead you to exploring the world and exploring the history and going on into the Nakadama buried temples and all that cool stuff.
Yeah.
But I like that it's more Ragtag. It's less, they're less good guys.
Yeah.
They're more like morally gray, maybe a little bit.
I think morally gray, but with good intentions.
Good intentions. Yeah. They're not on the road to, badness, but they're just like,
yeah, they're not villains. I don't think they're villains in any capacity. I think they just rub, it's kind of like in the same sense that like sometimes your adventuring party is at odds with the guards, but the guards are working for the same king you are. Yeah. It's just that the guards have their rule set that they're trying to follow, and you're kind of trying to break it a little bit. Yeah. I would say they're closer to player characters than they are. Yeah. Like where they're okay with breaking some rules to get things
like,
done.
Hey, like you can put your market back together, like, but we had to catch this thing. Yeah. Like, tough.
I like that. I think, okay, so a couple things. I think some other interesting topics to discuss about the Guardian Angels is, what happens? Are there other faction members from, like, what if there's a sword school, like a master from one of the sword schools has come and joined the Guardian Angels?
Holy smokes.
Or a couple witches, like where it's like, oh yeah, there's groups from other factions. There's not like a this or that type situation where you can have other faction members also joining the Guardian Angels.
Or it could be like the Guardian Angels are like, hey, as this organization grows, we're realizing that there's tougher and tougher demons to fight, and we need to train members of our group. So we've got to send them to the sword schools, or we've got to recruit, or we've got to send them, like Jill, like you're going to go learn how to be a witch because we need magic skills. Like we need potion brewing.
That's interesting.
We cannot fight these demons just the way it is.
So they're sending members to go become other factions, join other factions. That's really interesting.
And some of these, because if they are generally like, from say 14 to like 22, like that's sort of the main group. Like it makes me think of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
Like most of it just high school kids, but then you had the I forget his name now. He was the dude who sort of like was the librarian, and he knew the lore, and he was Buffy's sort of mentor. He's like trying to train her to like become a Slayer. Like you would have maybe one or two of those characters in this organization, but it's like now I've lost it again.
It's okay. No, I like that.
I go into like the holes.
I think it's interesting. I like the idea of like like you get an older guy, and then he's just like got a couple of young kids around him, and he's like, I'm not gonna chase it down. That's what you guys are here for, but I'm gonna give you all the tools you need.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
It's just also you wonder how young does a guardian angel get? You can imagine like the conflict player characters might have when it's like we're at odds with the guardian angels, and then you confront a couple of them, and it's like, this one's, you're 12, like you're a 12-year-old.
Or there could be like young stewards that wind up becoming guardian angels, like
possible.
They know about the world, or they've been out in the woods and they've seen stuff, and that then they kind of join up because it's kind of young kids anyway, and then they all of a sudden now they've got a skill set, and they bring it to the sort of like this organization that's got a mission. I mean, really, it's sort of like they're having fun, they're doing things that young kids do, but then maybe there's a core group that keeps like bringing them back and saying, all right, now like focus.
We
got to do this thing, or like you guys go figure out what's going on in that area of Yataman. Like,
it's pretty cool.
Yep.
I think the last thing to discuss with them, I mean, there's a lot to chat because we've kind of the version of them has shifted quite a bit,
which I dig where it's going though.
But I think when we come to a conclusion as to where this group might land, I think the next topic is how do spirits feel about the guardian angels, because there could be some conflict there, right? Like it could be a situation where it's like, hey, like there's like, maybe it's, I don't want to get too real world here, because there's people that get marginalized because of the way that they look, or because of a group that they're part of, and that's not what I want here. I don't want the guardian angels to be harassing spirits because they're spirits, right? Like, and that's even why I mentioned earlier when I was like, where I was like, oh, should we go get him? It's like, well, no, we're not going to go harass the spirit. We have to confirm that they're a demon before they do that. I think that's a good aspect for them to hold. But that being said, I still think there could be situations where there's conflicts between spirits, and maybe the spirits generally are like, oh yeah, we support, like, we don't like demons either. They're evil, and they do, they do terrible stuff or whatever. But maybe there's some conflict there that could happen potentially, or maybe they just love them. Maybe there's spirits who've joined the guardian angels.
I mean, if the spirit realm rejects these, spirits that become corrupted, the spirit realm actually just boots them out. So probably spirits would be able to just sense a demon that's gone, a spirit that's gone demonic, and they would be like kind of repelled by them, like, oh yeah, there's just something not right with that spirit.
So maybe it's like a lot of the guardian angels have companion spirits who are like, oh yeah, like we also hate that these demons are, like, we don't like this either, so we're gonna assist you. I like that idea. I like some, that's interesting to think like each guardian angel has a couple spirits in their team.
I think like to like the thing that you're talking about with like because one of the things is like, you know, when you take like something like an orc and you make them a player character, it's like you've immediately demonstrified them. You've also de-eviled them.
Right.
So it makes me think in this case, if we're going to do demons, we have to say that demons are monsters, or that they've lost some form of, like, we cannot have it where it's like, oh, you could do a player character as a demon.
Right.
Because then that instantly creates that problem that you're talking about. It's like, uh-oh, now we've got this like kind of real world analog, and that's just no bueno. So
that's one of the things that we touch on in the Oni Bloodline sorcerer, where it's like you know, as you utilize your spells as an Oni sorcerer, you start to look more like an Oni, and that causes conflict because Onis are terrifying, and people, you know, like, it's not like there's like, oh, there's good Onis around. Like, you might be a good person, but you're kind of trapped in this you know, in this like scary shell of something that's like not a representation of who you are. And so that's something we had to play around with, where it's like you're playing a character who has demonic features, but you know, and that is something that should be said, is Obojimans are most likely going to be scared because there aren't a set of good, they're monstrous creatures. Onis aren't good in this space. Demons aren't good in this space.
Yeah. So, you know, that would be one thing that then we'd have to sort of like say is like, all right, you know, when something becomes a demon, it is, you know, whether it's just like a force that has compelled it to do that, or it has made choices, like it has said, you know, I choose the path of wrongdoing, you know, or the path of doing wrong things makes me feel good. And then slowly it kind of morphs into this demonic thing. It has there's a threshold that it goes beyond it. And that when it passes that threshold, it turns from a spirit to a demon. It's booted from the spirit world. And then now it becomes sort of like, now it becomes a monster. Yeah. And then that's something that, you know, like in Ghostbusters, like you never felt bad for the monsters, you know, even the green spirit that was just wrecking the ballroom, and it was like eating all the cake and like smashing things.
Did
and
you
just
say
like
the green spirit?
Yeah.
When you say Slimer.
Yeah, Slimer.
Why'd you call it by its Christian name?
It's green. Yeah, it's Green Spirit the Third. Yeah. No, yeah. That's when Slimer, gets. That was me. I mean, when I was a kid, I just saw that. I was like, green spirit. Yeah. So the green spirit,
I love it.
You know, you got put in the trap, right?
Yeah.
And then Ghostbusters then would plug it in and go whoop, and it would release it back into like the spirit world or whatever, wherever it went. But it was neutralized effectively. And then that would have to be sort of how we approach, you know, demons in this world.
Yeah.
So.
Well, on that, we've been chatting for quite a while.
The puck of time.
Well, I forgot to set the puck of time, but I'm pretty sure we've been chatting for a good while. Yeah. That being said, I'm excited about the Guardian Angels, or whatever we end up calling them. Yeah. The guard, the watch guard, the guardian spirits, whatever it is.
Yeah. Demon guard.
And I'm excited. I'm excited to chat more about
it. It's cool.
I
love it.
Thank you for joining us on an Ari-less podcast. How sad, but. I'm sure Ari will love this. I'm sure Ari will love this idea. Thank you for joining us. You can catch us more episodes later as we just chat Obojima. You can also catch us on Discord, TikTok, Instagram, other social media platforms. And that's it.
Wrapping it up.
Have a good one. Bye. Oh, subscribe. Oh, that's the other thing I was supposed to say. Subscribe.
Please do.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
See ya.